I am turning 50 next month, and I just wanted to share some of the life experiences that I've had that I think probably taught me the most. One of those life experiences was being diagnosed with cancer when I was 32 years old. And this is what I learned from cancer. I learned not to live in fear anymore. I have been plagued by fear my whole life, and I was freed from fear through getting cancer. Fear is one of those things that just kind of stops us from living fully. And I was able to walk through cancer without fear and realizing that in every situation, even the hard ones, we can still have hopeful expectancy. We don't have to know the outcome, but we know that there will be something that brings hope to us. The second thing that I learned is to value every single day as a gift. I don't take anything for granted. I don't waste time because I know that I have a purpose. I'm still on this planet and I want to make every single day count. And the third thing that I learned is that everything in life, even the hard stuff, can serve me and make me a better person. And that's really what cancer taught me. I also went through a divorce after being married for 23 years. And that is something that definitely changes people. When you go through something like that, it's a significant loss. But these are the things that I learned walking through a divorce. The first thing I learned is that God is my source. He is my protector and my provider. And those times when I felt afraid, just financially or just because I was by myself, He was there with me. The second thing is not to let your heart get hard. It's really easy to let bitterness and unforgiveness take up root when you're walking through a divorce. But I feel like we have to fight to keep those things out of our hearts because the heart is truly the wellspring of our lives. So if that's something you're walking through right now, I just want to encourage you to do what you have to do to keep your heart pure, to keep your heart soft and not to get hard. And lastly, I will say what I learned is that God can work good even out of bad. Divorce was never God's plan, and He knows that it hurts everyone that's involved. But at the same time, He allows us to have life again. And He brings life out of ashes, the ashes of divorce. And so if you're going through that, I just want you to hang on to hope. There is life again on the other side. And I think I'm just going to do a bonus one on this one. I think that you need to also find the good in that relationship and hang on to that. Even if it was bad, you still could not be the person that you are today without having gone through that relationship. So find the good in that relationship and hang on to that. I will say that God shows up in very mysterious ways for single moms, and it's undeniably Him. He will be there with you. You won't have to walk through those things alone. And the second thing I would say, if someone is walking through a season of being a single mom, is to take care of yourself. I think we try to give so much because we feel like our kids are missing out now, and we're trying to make up for that. But if we don't take care of ourselves, then we're really not able to give them the best care that they need either. So take care of yourself first, mamas. Next is that you can't possibly do it all. You weren't designed to. And I think sometimes we have to have grace for ourselves and knowing that there are going to be gaps. We can't fill all the gaps in, but God will fill those in. So have some grace for yourself. Two more things. One, I think is really important is don't feel the need to prove anything to anyone. When you're walking out being a single mom, I think we can have a tendency to feel like we have to prove to everyone that we can do it all and that we're okay and we can keep all the plates spinning, but you really don't have to prove anything to anyone. And lastly, let things go. Just be present and create those moments and memories with your kids that go beyond just survival mode living. Enjoy the moments with your kids. The first thing that I learned through that experience is that the world is full of hurting people. The world is full of evil. Evil is real and it's worse than I ever imagined it to be. And we need a savior. I realized that Jesus is truly the solution to those that have been so broken and so hurt, because he came to restore and to redeem. So that's one thing that I learned through being able to serve those that have been victimized in that way. The next thing I learned is that you cannot lead well from an unhealthy place. So if you're not in a healthy place, you're going to have to get yourself healthy first before you lead a team of people or lead those that are just coming out of such hard suffering. If you're not living a life that is healthy, then you don't really have a lot to offer those around you. I would also say to cultivate a team culture that has really strong values intact. If you serve your team well first, then they'll be able to serve others well. I also learned that every story of suffering deserves to be believed and to have a compassionate response, not judgment. And lastly, I would say at the end of each day, we can't carry that heavy burden of suffering for other people. We can be a compassionate witness to it, but that's why Jesus made the invitation to come to him when we're weary and burdened, and he'll give us rest. We weren't meant to carry that heavy load of suffering. And so when you feel yourself being burned out or there's too heavy of a weight on you from working with those that are dealing with suffering and pain, then I would encourage you to invite Jesus to come and take that burden off of you. So that's what I learned from working in a nonprofit serving victims of human trafficking. This is what I learned from losing my mom back in 2017. First of all, moms are just irreplaceable. I don't think there's anyone that can ever fill the shoes of a mom that knew how to love well. So there will always be a little something missing from my life because there's no one that can quite fill that hole. What it also taught me was to invest in my relationship with my kids and always let that be a number one priority in my life, regardless of how old they are. They still need their mom, just like I still needed my mom. My mom loved really, really well, even though her life was mostly marked with suffering and with pain. She never let her heart get hard. And I want to be like my mom. I want to always have a soft heart no matter what life throws at me. Lastly, I would say that a life well lived leaves those around feeling like they were all your favorite. When my mom passed, everyone, her children, her grandchildren, everyone felt like they were her favorite. And I think that that's a mark of a life that was lived well. She knew how to love everyone really well and make them all feel valued and special. And that's what I learned walking through losing my mom. I've had 6 miscarriages in my life, and the first thing I would say that I've learned through that experience is that there are some things that will never make sense or be made right this side of heaven. And I think that miscarriage is one of those things. God doesn't always keep us from walking through difficult things, but the promise is that He would never leave us or forsake us, so we won't have to walk through it without Him and His presence. I would say too that the love and compassion that other people express through that loss, those are things that are always remembered. And those gifts are like a balm that are offering just a soothing comfort in the midst of a very unique loss. And I want to say too that if that's something that you're walking through, to give yourself an abundance of grace. It's a unique loss. It's a loss of hope and expectancy. And I think you have to grieve it differently. So just give yourself some grace and don't lose hope. I have 2 amazing children, and I'm so grateful for them every day. And some people may end up adopting or fostering or having their own children, but just don't give up if that's something that you dream of. One of the experiences that I've had in my 50 years of life was having to help put my own father in prison for some of the things that he had done. And what I learned through that is that he's still my dad. We never stop needing or wanting to have that role filled in our lives. Even if our dads have done horrific things, it's still the man that we call dad. Secondly, God can redeem anyone. So never lose hope. If you've watched someone you love make really bad choices, just know that God can truly take anything and turn it around for good. So just keep praying, and I believe that you'll see the goodness of God over anyone's story if they're open to Him. Next is that I don't have to accept the generational sins or generational curses from my family. I get to break those off for the generations that are still to come. And so those are not things that I look at and feel overwhelmed by. I look at it and go, oh, this is a place where I get to push back the gates of hell. And for the generations coming behind me, things can be different. And then lastly, I would say that God is the perfect Father. I have everything I need because He's a really, really good Father. I will never regret being a voice for the victims of my father. I always hope that my dad will truly let his life and his heart be changed, and that even now, while he's in prison, that God is redeeming and restoring him.